Next, we have Benjamin Dzubur, AI team lead at Zebra BI. Benjamin will be presenting business decision-making in the era of AI. In this session, he will discuss how AI is transforming traditional business processes by simplifying data cleaning, preparation, and ETL tasks. Benjamin will highlight how AI enables direct interaction for reliable insights, empowering executives, managers, and employees to access and query data seamlessly, fostering a more inclusive and efficient decision-making environment. Please welcome Benjamin Dzubur to the stage.
Thanks, everyone. Just a second until I get set up. So let's see if we can see the slides. All right. Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Benjamin Dzubur, coming from Slovenia and representing Zebra BI. So maybe first a quick question. Has anyone by chance heard about Zebra BI before? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, we have a few hands here as well. Great. For those of you who haven't, Zebra BI is a software company. We develop advanced business data visualization software. So basically very fancy charts that follow strict standards on how you should communicate insights to the different stakeholders in your company so that they can make informed business decisions faster and with more clarity. Right? But today I'm going to talk about a slightly different topic, basically business decision-making in the era of AI. So sounds very dramatic, but actually I'll try to be as concrete as possible as I can be in these 20 minutes. And I'll try to answer this question of how AI can help us in this data-driven business decision-making world. And I'll try to do this through 3 sub-questions. First of all, how good is AI in business data analysis today already? What can we already do with some of the tools, the popular tools that are out there? Next, where are we falling short in using AI effectively, right? So we all know about ChatGPT or Microsoft Power BI Copilot. Where are those tools really lacking? Where are they limited? Is there any untapped potential there that they could be taking advantage of better? And lastly, what is needed for AI to fully replace human business analysts? So this is a provocative question, but I'll try to really get our minds into thinking mode and understand where really are the gaps that we have between AI and humans. So, today we've set up, a lot of expectations as a business for analytics in our company, for the department, and for the AI as well. We've tried a lot of tools and they've just failed to meet our expectations. Either they're not good enough for our use cases, and so on. So let's look at some of the expectations that we have as a business, right? So first of all, data democratization. In our company, we usually have different stakeholders like CFOs, marketing managers, salespersons, at the bottom of the hierarchy, and they all have their data-driven questions that they need answers to in order to be able to perform their job well. And these are non-technical people. They're not business intelligence experts. So they need to be able to communicate with the business analytics department or with the tools, the systems that they're using in a natural way, typically or ideally through natural language. So this interface should be user-friendly and there shouldn't be a steep learning curve. At the same time, they should be able to really specify all the little details that they want so they can retrieve the relevant results and metrics that they need. And also from the visual aspect, the visuals should be fine-tunable, so they should be able to emphasize different data points, for example, and even be able to apply corporate branding. So some companies have very strict branding guidelines. They should be able to get these insights very fast. So we shouldn't be waiting for our analysts to generate, some static PDF reports only, so that we, get those insights, analyze them, and see there's actually something missing, and now it has to go back. They need to add another insight, and so on. So we should be able to iterate fast. Then scalability. So we should be able to not just analyze small data sets or different Excel files, but also huge databases, data lakes, and so on. And in terms of security and privacy and governance, this is non-negotiable, so we need strict control over who has access over what data. We should be able to have control over if any AI is training in the background, if you're using AI solutions, and God forbid any data leaks or data breaches, right? And finally, reliability and trust. So this is arguably the most important point, because it directly addresses some of the key challenges of generative AI. So if we are not able to get accurate results from our analyses, then the system will only do more harm than good and will make worse business decisions, not better. It turns out if we use AI in a smart way, we can actually tackle all of these issues, and AI can help us with all of them. So in order to understand that, let's first look quickly at what a typical business analyst pipeline day-to-day workflow looks like. What are the key steps? So after defining the problem, usually you would try to connect or collect different data, connect to different databases, either online sources through APIs, or maybe you already have some internal company data available and you would just connect your favorite tool to it, whether that be Power BI, even Excel, or something low level like Python. Once you connect the data, you would start cleaning and transforming it. So you try to fix the structure so that it fits something that you would use later down the line for analysis. You would do something about the duplicates, missing values, inconsistencies in the data, either remove them or something else. And then you would do some feature selection and engineering as well, so create additional columns from existing ones, for example, or filter out the ones that are not needed. And then another step, which is sometimes part of the previous step, sometimes it's skipped. But for example, in Power BI, you would go into modeling. So you would basically build a star schema from the database that you connected to. You would establish different relationships between the columns. You would try to semantically understand what each column really represents, the type, the units, also like the business impact, is it positive or negative, how you will use it in the later down the line in the analysis step. And you can even build additional calculated metrics or columns through formulas based on existing ones. Then we have exploratory data analysis, and this is really where the world opens up for business analysts. You can do a bunch of stuff, so you can analyze trends, correlations, outliers. You can drill down into specific segments and search for patterns there, or you might already have some predetermined KPIs that you just need to extract from the data. You might do predictive analytics, you have clustering, so really a lot of options. But then when you've collected all of your insights, you would want to typically start preparing some sort of report. You would add text commentaries on what the key insights are, and you would add interpretations and answers to why-type questions. But then also you would try to visually prepare like a dashboard, add narratives and summaries. So you would then prepare it to communicate it to the relevant stakeholders. And finally, the biggest thing you can do as a business analyst usually is include additional contextual information about the company, the wider business context and the strategy into the analysis and the insights to give actionable advice on what might be good business decisions to take, right? So what can AI do? So let's look at these steps quickly once more and see where there is potential for generative AI to really help us. So first of all, data connection and collection. This one is a bit boring, but in the simplest case, you could just write code. AI can write the database connection code to help you out. A more complex scenario would be you would build an agent which would automatically scrape the web to connect or collect some different data. But a really interesting use case that is very popular is building vector databases from unstructured company documents. And if those documents contain relevant data, that can be really useful in a later stage, as we'll see. Then in data cleaning and transformation, this is where we have a bit more potential for AI. So if you have, let's say, a database connection, you could do automatic filtering of tables and columns. So you would build agents with structured outputs that would try to select different columns that would be relevant for your analysis. For files, if you have a bunch of Excel files, all with different formats, you could try to iteratively clean them through some sort of agent which would try to basically unify the data format, which could be useful in a later step. And then finally, you can use structured outputs, various different architectures of agents here to achieve some of these things. Next, we have modeling. So there's really a lot of potential here to do a lot of things with generative AI. So in terms of semantics, you can really try to understand what each column means in the data set, which are the key important measures or metrics and the dimensions, how they relate to each other, what is their impact, how you would go about aggregating or grouping them if you would want to analyze specific segments. And then on top of that, once you have this understanding of the data model, you can even go further, build additional ones through generative AI, so it could recommend automatically formulas on top of the existing ones to generate, let's say, if you have revenue and profit, you could generate different margins, which would be generated automatically. And again, here you could write an agent which would use structured outputs to generate formulas that would adhere to some syntax. And yeah, you could do that. In terms of exploratory data analysis, the most common use case that we see is just letting AI write and then execute either SQL queries or Python code, and then you would basically execute that code over the data set. And this is quite powerful. It can do a lot of things, but also the uncertainty of results usually grows with this approach. Or we can be a bit more intelligent and basically pack the most common analysis into functions with pre-validated code and pass them to agents which they would use to basically execute those analyses and give you consistent results. So really, function calling is something that can be used here effectively. In terms of visualization and reporting, obviously summarizing, this is the #1 use case of Gen AI, I would say in general, but also allowing or building AI agents and equipping them with a data viz toolkit could be quite powerful. So they would be able to choose what sort of visualizations they would present, which would be the most relevant for a specific context. Finally, in terms of communication and recommendations, this is really where we can leverage that RAG database that we have. If it has relevant contextual information, metadata, additional information about the company, it can be relevant passages can be retrieved from this database and included to enrich the outputs and potentially even give better reasons, maybe even advice in terms of what you could be able to do. So are the current solutions out there taking advantage of these ideas? It turns out there's been a lot of developments in the past year, but let's look at two of the most well-known solutions to see some of their limitations. So first of all, ChatGPT, or aka ChatGPT for the advanced data analysis. And I tried uploading a relatively simple sales data set into ChatGPT, a date column. We have some dimensions and then some metrics about sales, product sales, basically. And I ask it, investigate this data and give me a chart. And this is the result that I get. So obviously, it's not ideal. It's scatter plot with only 2 points. On the y-axis, for some reason, it uses the scientific unit notation. If I go into interactive mode, I actually don't see any data points at all, so this is even worse. But then I can ask it, I want to see a breakdown of, the sales over some dimension, and the next chart that I get is this. It's quite similar to the previous one, but somehow even less readable. Now we have multiple colors overlapping, try to do a breakdown over the districts, but it's really just not that useful. So I can ask it the same thing over again in a fresh new chat. I get another chart, but again, the titles are overlapping, so it's not really ideal, even though it's now more readable and we have like a breakdown over the district managers. I ask it another question, so this is a relatively simple one, and I get a fairly good answer. But then I ask it to explain the insights from the chart, and this is actually a technical limitation. It cannot see the underlying numbers behind the chart. So it cannot give me any concrete numerical insights. It only gives me like a generic output, okay, look at those data points, see which one is the highest one, etc. I ask it for another chart. This is the chart that I get. Again, poor choice of colors. Can I really make out if I'm doing well or not? Not really. And I actually have to go look into the code to even understand what the bars mean. But for this, I have to use my technical knowledge, right, of being able to read code and see, okay, the first 2 bars on the left are actually for revenue, the second 2 on the right are for costs, and so it's not ideal. Another example where I ask it for an explanation of key drivers, and it gives me what seems to be a correct answer at first. So Denmark has a lot of total quantity here, but it turns out if I scroll a bit further in the data set, I found like Sweden with even more impact. So this is actually a hallucination. And again, if I check the code for what it did, it only saw like the first few rows of the data set, which makes sense that it answered in that way. So for ChatGPT, to summarize, really simple to use. You can iterate really fast, but it's hard to claim data democratization if I have to look at the code to even understand what the charts represent half of the time. And we saw it can, it can produce hallucinations, and the charts, the visuals are not really that flexible. You have to put in a lot of effort to get the results that you want. Next up, we have Power BI Copilot. And there's a lot of copilots by Microsoft. I'll be focusing specifically on the one in the reporting view in Power BI. So you have your dashboard basically on the left, and then there's a sidebar where you can chat with the AI. And I personally don't have access to Power BI Copilot specifically because of the pricing. So you need to have a premium capacity workspace, which starts at $5,000 per month, and it's meant mostly for enterprises. So I'll be using some of the tests that people online have run and try to present some of the limitations, right? So here, the user asked, provide me 10 customer names by profitability. It didn't know what profitability really meant because it's not in the data set, fair enough. But then the user tried to define or tell it what it means, and it just gives an irrelevant result, basically arguing with you because it doesn't have the it doesn't have the contextual conversational history. It doesn't remember the previous context, what you asked it, so it's not able to really communicate with you in a natural way. If you ask it for some insights that are not in the reporting view, it can have trouble giving you a result. And then there's also limitations that Microsoft themselves list on their website. And these are quite strict limitations. So it can't modify the visuals after it has generated them. It can't add filters. So if you ask it for a specific segment in time, what happened in 30 days, it won't be able to filter the chart for you. It can't understand complex questions. If you ask it multiple things at once, it will probably just generate irrelevant results. And so to summarize, Power BI itself is a very, very flexible tool and powerful tool, but the AI copilot inside it currently today is very limited, right? So, and it's not really designed with people who don't have BI expertise in mind, because they would still need to find their way through this very complex tool to use it. And so, knowing this, we at Zebra BI actually decided to try to build our own tool, taking the full potential of basically generative AI, what I've described in the previous points, into account. And I'm just going to show you a very quick demo of it. Hopefully this will now work. We all know how it goes with the presentations, with the live demos. So all right, so I'm just gonna upload the same sales data that I've showed in ChatGPT into Zebra AI. So this is our online web-based tool. And now Zebra AI is gonna do all the magic, you could say, by itself. So it's gonna do all of those steps in sequence, like data cleaning, data modeling. It's gonna do data analysis, so it's gonna search for different segments and try to do various analysis, search for outliers, and then even dashboarding in the last step, all automatically, and in 20 seconds it will just generate a full dashboard for you where you can interact with the visual. So let's say I don't like this first chart, I can just switch it, change up the values. I want to see the absolute variances as well. I can zoom in, I can show more of the data or less of the data. So it's very flexible. On top of that, it's interactive, so I can do filtering. If I want to see a specific segment, I can just click on the bar to see what's going on there, and so on. So we see here a huge drop in the women's category. We can start exploring different dimensions and so on. We already also generated chart titles for each chart, as well as summary of the whole dashboard, and then also advice in terms of what might be interesting to analyze next and go further, right? So for example, I can now have an interface like ChatGPT where I can just ask questions. I even get suggestions, but I can also type my own things. So like, why did women's perform so poorly? It doesn't have to be very specific. It will find the right data point because it goes through this pipeline, AI pipeline, which tries to basically retrieve the relevant information. It will do everything automatically after a few steps. Boom, I get more results. It automatically drew a few more visuals, applied the relevant filters, and gives me an answer. If I want to double check the numbers, I can also, open this window where I have more additional information in terms of what was used for grouping, aggregation, and so on. I can check the numbers. I can double check them in, manually in my other framework of choice. And it gives me a result as well. And then when I want to share, I can just click this link, share the link with my other stakeholders. They can open it, and they can even continue analyzing the data and completing or continuing this story. Right? So I'm running low on time. I just want to finish up really quick with one last slide. So, okay, skip this. So I promised I'll talk quickly about trust and reliability. So for this data analysis, AI-enabled data analysis tools, it is crucial to ensure transparency and reproducibility of any AI-generated results, right? And then even go further in terms of explaining them, so explaining the whole reasoning procedure behind it. And this is the only way to really start building trust for the users who are trying to leverage the power of these tools. In terms of reliability, AI will get more reliable over time. It's already doing so. New AI models are being developed as we speak, and we have a lot of techniques that we can use to our advantage to really build a powerful and accurate vertical LLM, basically. But if I asked you today, would you trust humans or AI for business analysis more? You would likely say humans. I wouldn't blame you. I would agree. And the reasons you might list are maybe some of these reasons, right? But what I want to finish up with is I really implore you to think about these reasons. So if they make less mistakes, why do they make less mistakes? Can we get to the bottom of this? Can we understand and define these properties of humans? And then can we transform them into problems, mathematically defined problems or logically defined problems that we can maybe potentially even solve through some of these technologies that we have today. So this is what we do at Zebra BI, try to, on a daily basis, try to solve these problems, and this is the end of my talk. So thank you very much. If you're interested, you can scan the QR code, and if you are interested in this topic of AI with BI, please come to talk to me. Be happy to talk with anyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions now? Anyone? Okay. That's it for today, Benjamin. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being part of this conference.